Welcome back to Sidebar Social. I'm Dana Stewart.
And I'm Jennifer Grinke.
Okay, so what's on the agenda today?
So I have an update.
Okay, I'm ready.
I don't know if everybody remembers Flyer the fish.
Oh.
We had the other fish that I forgot the name. Was it Rosie?
Well, no, I thought they were all Flyer. You had part 1, part 2, part 3.
No, there's 3 fish and they had 3 different names.
One's dead.
One died, one went missing, and one is still alive. That was the announcement. That
There's no
Flyers,
way.
Yeah, it's still alive.
Your third fish is alive.
Do you want to know why it's still alive?
I would love to know.
Because I think it was a year ago. No, 6 months ago. My child gave it to her nanny, and that's why it's still alive.
So it's in protective custody.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's safe.
yeah.
It's in a safe house.
So the moral is don't let you or your children babysit fish.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Well, I'm glad that he's alive, though.
Yeah,
Good for
me
him.
too.
You know, the thing is, what I want to know is where did the second fish go? The one that jumped out of the fish tank?
You still don't
I mean, you
know.
named him Flyer. What the hell did you think he was going to do?
That was Rosie.
Oh, that was Rosie. Okay. I don't know.
She wanted a better life.
Okay. Well, I'm glad he's alive.
Yeah, he's alive.
Let's move on to more pressing topics.
Yes. So today we have a guest on who's going to be talking about collaborative law. And so why don't you tell us kind of just like a little bit about what's collaborative law?
Yeah, I feel like most people don't know what it is. So it's just an alternative to what we would call the traditional path to divorce, where each party gets their attorneys and potentially go to court or sending discovery. It can be very contentious and very expensive and emotionally charged. Collaborative law is a way where still the parties have attorneys, but everyone agrees at the beginning that they're going to not go to court. And instead, the attorneys hire a team of neutrals to help them work through the divorce process. So I think maybe we pause there. Should we introduce Katie?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let's bring her in. So we have on the show Katie Zuverink. Thank you for coming today.
Yes, thank you.
Y'all, I am so excited to be here and to get the update on all of the fish.
Yes.
That was awesome.
You're new to the fish, so
Yeah, well,
know.
2 are dead, but at least one's alive. So yeah, that's pretty good
Very
for
exciting.
Jen.
Yeah. Very exciting.
So you are a licensed professional counselor, or what we call in the collaborative world, the MHP, mental health professional.
That's right.
So why don't you give our audience not an update, but just tell them a little bit about your background and your education, kind of how you got to this role.
Yeah. Okay. So, can I give my 30-second version? So,
Sure.
I went to grad school to do children's therapy, and I spent the first 10 years of my career doing counseling primarily with children and specializing in parenting. And through all of that time, I saw lots of families come through who really wanted to do divorce well. And they started counseling with their kids kind of on the front side of going into the divorce process. And the parents had really wonderful intentions. And so they went into kind of your standard divorce process, right? So we would call that litigation. And the process itself just kind of inherently creates conflict,
Right.
Yeah.
And despite their kind of best intentions, it creates all of this drama and all of this chaos for the family unit. And so that passes its way down to the kids and causes a lot of challenges, a lot of damage. And so as the children's therapist, you end up seeing all of this harm that has to really kind of be undone. And so because of my kind of networking and knowing family law attorneys in that community, I stumbled across divorce collaborative law, and really kind of fell in love with the concept. I learned about the mental health professional, the MHP role. I got trained in that in 2018 and jumped in, and that is all that I have done since then. So clinically, really, that's nearly all that I do. I do a few other kind of related things, but that's what I specialize in, and
Awesome.
I love it.
All right, Katie, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Got it.
So we've touched briefly on collaborative law. I'm a random stranger, happen to be in a building. You're getting on the elevator. I'm getting on the elevator.
Sounds creepy.
Yeah, I'm not stalking her. Okay, thanks a lot. What's your elevator pitch? What is collaborative law? How is that different than traditional divorce?
Yeah. Okay. So, elevator man.
Stalker?
Weirdo. Okay. So, how's that different? So, within the collaborative law, so we would have So instead of, let's say you have two spouses, right? And they each, within a traditional setting, are each going to hire their own attorney. And those attorneys are going to advise you and advocate for you to have the best deal for you. And those are pretty much the only people involved, right? So from a 30,000 foot level. So instead, within the collaborative setting, what we're going to do is you're each going to hire your own attorneys, but those attorneys are trained to function in a collaborative way. Okay. And you also have a mental health professional. Okay.
I.e. you.
Yes. So me or somebody like me who's also been trained within this collaborative way of functioning. And often we also have a neutral financial professional. Okay. And then all of these people sit, kind of, if you can imagine, right? For people who are listening, not watching, sit at a table and walk through all of the pieces together. So instead of you and your attorney fighting for what is best for you, the whole group is working for what is net best for the whole family, right? And so we're coming to an agreement about the finances, how we're going to disentangle all of that, the parenting plan, right? So what makes the most sense for your children based on their ages, developmental levels, your family traditions in the past, what you're trying to accomplish in the next several years. And so the whole thing is based on, where you've been and where you're trying to go. Your whole system, instead of, this like, well, here's what I want and here's what I want, and, fight to the death over who's going to take the 2 kitchen chairs, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Well, this is my stop on the elevator, so thank you. It sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Follow us and join the conversation on Instagram and YouTube at Sidebar Social. So Dana and I have trained in collaborative. Probably I trained like 10 years ago. I don't know about you.
I was like with Melinda, God, years ago, like 15 years ago, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
And one of the things I love about the process is that it's all confidential.
Yeah.
And so it's not something where if you don't like an outcome, you can go to the courthouse. Things aren't filed, with the court. So nobody's seeing all of your business. So you're able to keep everything confidential and keep everything within the collaborative process. In the litigation process, anyone can go in and watch a court system or read online or watch videos or something about what's happening during that process, but not so much with collaborative. Could you kind of walk us through just briefly, like how the meetings run, how the process starts?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically what happens, right? So after so you guys know, right? So often what happens right after the clients hire you guys, so then you refer to your mental health professional, right? So based on what you have found that your clients are maybe going to have the best fit, right? So you may refer your client to me, and then after you talk to the other attorney, and then you guys find like the best MHP that's going to be the best fit. So then I'll often meet with both of the parties individually, and then make sure that like this is a good, like collaborative's a good fit for them. And then we have our first, what we call like joint meeting.
Yeah.
And then, so within that meeting, we talk through what their goals are, right? So we talked about like, where they're going as a family a minute ago. And so what this means for each of them, right? Like, what are their goals financially? What are their goals for where they want to live? What are their goals for their kids? What are their goals for how they want to interact after this? And so when they have these goals, like, so sometimes people come in with a goal like, I want to keep the house. Right. I want to keep the what we call the marital home. And so what we do is we don't just take that, right? So they'll say, I want to keep the house. So we'll dig a little bit deeper. What would that accomplish for you? Why does that feel important to you? And the reason that we do that is because it may not, we know that it may not be the most practical thing for them to keep the house because of cash flow, because of the way that their assets are lining up, right? And so when we ask them, why is that important to you? They may say something like, I really want stability for the kids. I've been in this house for 20 years. It feels like home. Well, what about it feels like home? All of my things are here. I love the layout, right? Like whatever it is. And so we take those things down, and we as an entire team, right? Both of the attorneys, the financial person, me as the mental health person, are taking note of that so that we can maybe accomplish those things. Either they stay in that home or we help them accomplish those things from a different angle. So we take those goals, and then we keep those in mind as we move through the rest of the process. So getting those goals in mind in the first meeting, and then we walk them through, here's how we're going to grab all of your financial information, how you're going to submit all of that to the financial neutral. They develop a way to kind of synthesize all of that in a way that's digestible for both of the parties. They get that stuff to you guys. You do such a wonderful job of helping everybody, really the financial person helps them understand all of that.
Yep.
So we can all walk through it. And then we start figuring out how to disentangle all of that. We do that in a series of meetings that everybody attends. And then we slowly kind of figure out what are the options for dividing all of our assets. We figure out options for parenting plans. And then we help them kind of get to agreements.
Yeah. And I think it's super important that you work with attorneys who are trained in collaborative law, because I know we're trained in it, and it's even hard for me sometimes to take off that litigation hat and not so much advocate just what's best for my client in the meeting, but have that same mindset, like what's best for this family. And so do you have experience kind of working with attorneys who have and have not been trained in collaborative during the process?
Yeah, and I think I have a lot of, so absolutely. And I have a lot of kind of sympathy for the kind of having to carry both pieces at the same time, because it really is a whole paradigm shift.
Right, it is.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if your whole objective in one setting is to get absolutely the best deal for your client and to protect them all the time, right? So that's in one hand, right? And then in the other hand, there is, within the collaborative setting, it's like, how do we keep in mind also the needs of the other client? Right. And so sometimes we'll be, so if I'm working with a team that has an attorney who's either really, really new to collaborative, or they don't do a lot of collaborative, and we're nearly at an agreement, but then they'll say something like, oh, I can't let you agree to that, because what happens in 2 years if they change their mind, or they withdraw all the money from whatever, right? I can't let you, so for example, something like maybe there's a 529 account for, so college savings account for the children, and mom agrees that dad can manage that, right? Because only one person can own it. So mom agrees that dad can manage that. So they're at an agreement, everybody's on board, and then mom's attorney says, well, I can't let you agree to that, because what if dad pulls all that money out for whatever, and then mom now is scared. Okay, well, now we have an attorney who has, in very well-intentioned, accidentally created a problem, right? And so then part of it is, okay, so now we, as a team, as a professional team, have to come together and have a conversation about, where is this fear coming from? Is it coming from the client? Is it coming from you and your experiences? Is this something we're actually concerned dad's going to do? And then how can we maybe put some protections around that so that everybody feels comfortable again?
Yeah.
Katie, we want to address kind of some of the frequently asked questions with collaborative law. So I think the first one, I'm sure the audience right now is like, you're talking about a table. They're thinking we're in Wedding Crashers. We're all going to be there just having this conversation. Yep. So how is this process different than a traditional mediation?
Yeah, so in in several ways, I think. So we'll kind of just run through them pretty quickly. I think it's different from mediation in that you have a mental health professional who's helping you walk through actual communication. We're typically all in the same room. We do this through a series of meetings instead of like kind of a one shot all day situation, which helps kind of diffuse emotions, give you kind of space to think and process.
Yeah, I agree.
There is coaching in terms of like how we're going to move forward long term in parenting. And then I think the final piece really is that the whole team is really invested in how how the family moves forward, right? And so the way that plays itself out is in really kind of digging into the emotional pieces of it, not in like a therapy way, but more in helping give the family coping skills for moving forward.
Yeah.
In between meetings, people are getting coaching from the mental health professional on communication between the spouses. In dealing with kind of the logistical issues of either parenting if they have minor kids, or how they're dealing with like splitting utility bills and dealing with emails and stuff like that. And so really within the collaborative process, in a way that mediation does not accomplish, you're gaining these tools that you're going to have to use moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's really one of the biggest benefits.
Well, and I think the benefit too is with mediation. So we go to mediation. If we don't settle, they have a trial coming up. There's all this pressure at mediation. Oh, make a decision. With collaborative, we
Yeah.
run through those meetings and we try to focus, as you're saying, on the future needs to help them ease into making those big life decisions, knowing that if we don't settle, we're not forced to go to court tomorrow.
Well, and
Absolutely.
I think too with mediation, there can be surprises that show up during the mediation, whereas like in the collaborative sessions, we have an agenda. We've all gotten the agenda in advance, and I know it's your job to keep us on that agenda and not veer from the agenda at all. So if someone brings up a new topic that day, you're shutting it down.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite things is that, like I tell people constantly, you should feel 100% confident in making a robust decision, and that we do not make decisions on the fly. You should feel really confident when you are done making this decision.
All right, so let's talk about the cost of collaborative law, because we get asked all the time from clients, is it more expensive?
Yeah, it has like a bad rap that it's more expensive.
It does.
I don't know why.
And I get it. We have neutrals that we pay for, but we're also not paying for discovery, depositions, prep for a hearing, prep for a trial. So it can be less or about the same. What are your thoughts on the cost of it, Katie?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think the other piece that people don't know going in is the emotional cost that you have with litigation, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that with collaborative, you really are managing the emotions of the whole thing, and people are not doubling down on, they're not just grieving the loss of a marriage, but they're not experiencing a trauma of a litigated divorce.
Right.
Right. So we're managing those pieces.
Which
as
sets
well.
them up to, I think, have a much better co-parenting relationship if there's kids involved going forward in the future. So it's a lot better
Absolutely.
for the kids.
Totally agree.
Okay, another question we get asked a lot is how long does a collaborative process take? So what are your thoughts on what you've seen regarding that?
So typically what I see, right? So I'm probably like 200 cases in at this point. So typically what I say is that it's going to take between 4 and 6 or 7 joint meetings. And usually those are between 2 and 3 weeks apart. So I would say all in, usually we're looking at probably 6 months on average. I've seen it somewhere between 3 months and a year, but those are really on kind of those are outliers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a quick side note, in between those 2 to 3 week apart joint meetings, the parties are working with you or
They're doing
with the
homework.
financial planner. They've got homework, doing things, a lot of things the attorneys, they'd be paying the attorneys to do, but they do
Absolutely.
it collaboratively.
And then the other part is we're all meeting. So the professionals are all meeting to say, how do we move the case forward? What do we need to do? Are there issues we need to work through so that we're all going into the meeting prepared as well?
Yeah. And so the meetings are really streamlined.
So now let's talk about something that I feel like people fear that they read online. Okay, so in collaborative, we all agree we're not going to court.
Okay.
But at any time, somebody can press the red nuke button and opt out. Right? So let's talk about what that looks like.
I mean, if you opt out, if you hit the red button, it's all over, right? The whole thing is done. So you don't get to take anything with you. The attorneys are out, the financial professionals out, the mental health professionals out. Nothing you've done up to that point gets to go with you. right? So none of the research, none of the financial information goes. The parenting plan doesn't get to go with you. Nothing goes. We start over from
Yeah,
scratch.
so they have to hire new attorneys.
Yep.
And back at ground zero.
Back at ground zero. So that's really scary to some people.
Yeah.
And there are some benefits, like some pretty good benefits. And it was designed that way on purpose. So the reason that it was designed that way is because what you don't want to do is go into a process where it is imperative that you are transparent and very clear about your finances and your goals, and also be scared that the other person's attorney may end up in court against you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so it incentivizes you to be totally transparent, right? The other piece is that if you know that the whole process, that all of the pieces will go away, it really incentivizes people to stay in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To buckle down and get through it. Yeah.
And
I
get
agree.
through it and like really push through the things that are uncomfortable, because the conversations are hard. You know, I think that we get this like reputation for being kind of like, let's all sit around and hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Yeah. Get the pink crystals out.
Yeah.
Right? Like put our salt lamps in the middle. It's not like, these conversations are hard.
Right.
They're so hard.
Yeah.
But it's worth sticking it out and getting to a resolution that is, going to last, and it's durable and it's well thought out, because we don't want to start this whole thing all over.
Yeah, and it is important too to, I think, note for the audience that every meeting isn't sunshine and rainbows.
Ugh,
We have
yes.
parties who storm out, parties that cry, people that yell, but then we as the attorneys, when we're dealing with that in a traditional litigation, we're trying to put on the mental health professional hat and coach them through it. So then collaborative is great because we can lean on you
Yep.
to help try
Yeah.
to redirect them back onto the right path.
Absolutely. Keep it on the rails.
To connect with today's guest, Katie Zuverink, check out her website, katiesconsulting.com. That's KATIEZ consulting.com.
All right, Katie, did you bring your crystal ball with you today?
I left it in the car.
Damn it. Okay. Because we want to talk about what is the future of collaborative law? What does that look like? Where are we going?
Love it. Love it. So I work in a number of states, and I will tell you, kind of the adoption rate, right, is different in different places. I see it going up. This is what I've been hearing from kind of all over the country. I think the people who do collaborative are really passionate about it. We love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of jump all in. And, my hope is that by doing things like this, right, like podcasts, blogs, things like that, we keep spreading the word and getting people more familiar with it and excited about it. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I feel like there is a resistance with at least some of our peers, some
Yeah.
attorneys.
Yeah.
Again, it's all woo-woo-y. They don't want to do that, and I think maybe some of them just haven't been able to observe or be a part of it and see how it can actually benefit families and especially kids. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if an attorney's not trained in it and you bring it up to them because you know your client wants to do it, their initial reaction is like, well, we can just do like a cooperative approach. Like, we don't need to do that whole thing. And it's like, no, but you really need to buy in and sign the agreement and be in the process, because if you're not fully in it, it kind of has that litigation feel to it still.
Yeah, cooperative, just let's clarify that.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll go through what cooperative divorce, but that means we're not signing any documents saying we never go to court.
Yep.
We're trying to work together somewhat collaboratively, but at any time somebody can be like, no, screw it, we're going to court, you know? And so it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I think one thing is just more knowledge even to the attorneys about it.
Yeah, we need to educate attorneys. I think even judges, sometimes judges are confused as to like what happens behind the curtain. They don't quite get it,
Yeah.
And then I agree with you, stuff like what we're doing here, just getting the word out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Katie. We appreciate all your work you do for the clients, and yeah, you're doing great things. You're making lives
Yes,
wonderful.
thank you.
You guys too. It's been super fun.
Excellent. All right, we'll see you next time on Sidebar Social.